And so we get to the beach and we have the ocean, the beautiful ocean, and all these beautiful waves. But we need to understand how this works, how the mind works, and how the ocean works. Usually good surfers will stay on the beach for a little bit and will look at the currents, where the currents are. Good meditators will know what the mind is doing also. I like to expound a little bit more about what I explained yesterday on the first day, just because it's good to have a little bit of clarity around these instructions, where they come from, what they really mean. And when I first encountered the discourses of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, I was really amazed to read the Buddha's beautiful descriptions of how he described the mind and mental states. And he was explaining, this whole system of mental cultivation and mental development. Reading his words was very inspiring, but then I felt like I was a little bit left behind, because what he would describe as meditation, I couldn't really correlate what my practice was with that. And I just thought it was funny. I was thinking of how our meditation is like surfing, and I thought, if somebody were to take us on a beach and for our first surf lesson, and were to put a surfboard on the sand and say, all right, I want you to stare at this surfboard the whole day, or maybe a couple of days, and then just try to go and paddle out, try to go surfing. So, do you think you'd be able to surf? Yeah. I mean, you could probably know exactly the position of your surfboard in front of you, which is not a bad thing. Your mind could be probably a little bit more, still. I guess that would be a benefit. But in terms of going into the ocean and then understanding how the ocean works, understanding how the currents in the ocean work, understanding how waves work, and understanding how to go behind the break, catch waves, that's a very different story. The 6 R's that I've been teaching, can anybody venture and say what they are? The first quiz of the retreat. It's just the beginning. Recognize, very good. Since it only has one answer. Cannot say two. Yes, because I know you know them. Relax. Very good. That's the third one, but that's a release. Yeah, very good. Re-smile. That was said very seriously. Yes, very good, very good. And then return, yes. Good. Oh, you guys they're pretty good. Very good. Are you looking into the puja book or something? And then what's the last one? I didn't really emphasize that one too much. Repeat, yes. Great. Very good. So I like to see our meditation like this. It's like we're coming onto the beach, and to recognize is very big. It's not just to recognize that the mind is gone. It is that, but in fact, in reality, that is wisdom, what is called panya in Pali. And the more we developed of that wisdom, understanding the nature of mental states, understanding the impermanence of things, the impersonality of our experience. I won't go too deep into this, but just to lightly touch on the topic, later in the retreat we'll be talking about this more. How distractions work, how the mind works. The more we learn about the mind, the more able we will be to recognize efficiently, properly, thoroughly, completely. And so this is the recognized step is actually, some people tend to skip it, but actually I find it very interesting because it's much bigger than just this recognizing. It has all of the wisdom in it. And so we get to the beach and we have the ocean, the beautiful ocean, and all these beautiful waves purling. But we need to understand how this works, how the mind works, and how the ocean works. Usually on a regular beach, like a beach break, you will have currents, like the waves are coming in, they're crashing on the beach, and then they're recessing and they're going back into the ocean. And for many years, for me, trying to surf, I didn't know these things. And so I just, I saw the beach, I saw the waves, I saw, all right, let's go, like just jump in the ocean. And then you end up paddling hours and hours and hours and hours because you're just fighting against the whitewash, which is all the crumbled up waves. And that's really hard to go past. But at one point, I realized, and some wise friends told me that, hey, look, there's current on the beach and it's all going this way. And why would you try to go and force your way through this and paddle and actually spend all of your energy? Really, when I did that, I spent all my energy. I went past the break and then I had to, wait for an hour and then catch my breath and rest and hopefully catch one wave in my day, and that was it. I was done, But then I was shown the rip current, and then there was, oh, wow, this is amazing. It's like a conveyor belt. So you just like step on this and you just go. That's really easy. It's automatic. So once you learn to see that, and it was always there, but I never saw it like that. I never actually used it because I needed someone to point it to me. And then I realized, well, of course, this is so much faster. And so this is kind of like the recognized step, is seeing, okay, first, usually good surfers will stay on the beach for a little bit and will look at the currents, where the currents are. And what's the mind doing? Good meditators will know what the mind is doing also. The moment you realize that you were distracted, that is the recognized step. So there's no internal monologue involved. There's nothing. It's basically just what it is the recognizing of it. I like to open it up to say that it's bigger. It's a bigger field than just to recognize. It's all the wisdom of the Buddha, knowing the ocean, knowing the mind. But really in your meditation, it will mostly be the moment that you recognize that you're distracted, that's it. Usually recognize and release, they really come very close together. I break it up and explain it, but you don't have to think about it when you actually do it. So it's just so that people can understand a little bit better. And then we have the release. So I like to explain there are two main intentions on this path that the Buddha taught. Two right intentions that is part of the Eightfold Path. And this is very, very, very basic Buddhist knowledge. And so we will be talking about the Eightfold Path later, but this is just a little bit of an introduction to some principles here. And can somebody tell me the two main right intentions? And so yes, to renounce. So that's a big term. To renounce, it feels like, okay, like you have to renounce everything and then you'll be on the path kind of thing. So it's like leave your home, become a monk or nun, and that's it. That's the only way you can do this. But actually, nekkhamma, which is the Pali for what we usually translate as renunciation, personally, I like to translate it as letting go. It's that movement of letting go. In Pali, sometimes it is also synonym with another word, which is pahana. And pahana is to actually abandon. But again, we had this discussion the other retreat, and there are some trauma triggering words in the in the Buddhist world. I've encountered a lot of problems with that word. So again, it's pahana also is that kind of like letting go, that relinquishing, this like giving away. That's another term I like, giving away, getting lighter. So that's like the kind of downward movement, like this. And then when birds beat their wings, what do? There's like this, and then there's like, they have to go up again if they want to go down and beat their wings. So there's an element of uplift in there. And the other right intention is abhyapada, we say in Pali, which is non-anger. But this is kind of like, it's not a very common thing in English to use these terms like non-anger. So it would, basically this just means anything that is about mental uplift. Like the Brahma Vihara, as we said yesterday, loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy or just joy, mudita, and then equanimity or blissful poise, which I like to call. And all of these uplifted mental states, like the joy and the sequence we speak about every morning. And so we have these two principles. And the 6 R's are mainly broken apart into these two principles. That of letting go, which is the release and the relax, and that of mental uplift, which is the re-smile and the love. So re-smiling and returning to loving kindness. And so to come back to our surfing session, to release is, I see it like the right intention to realign into what we call the rip channel. So there is the rip current on the beach, which kind of conveys you to a bigger current which goes outside, out of the break. Once you know this trick, there's no way you're ever going to try to paddle through a bunch of breaking waves for no reasons. Because in the rip channel, because of the current, also it breaks down the waves, so you don't have to fight against the waves as much. So you have the current pushing you, but also the waves are not the same and they're a bit weaker. So it's really easy to go past the break when you go through the rip channel. And the release is a bit like that. The release is to reorient the mind towards the release, towards the letting go, towards the first right intention. And so effortlessly, basically when the mind becomes distracted, we are feeding that distraction with our awareness. So that's what's happening. Involuntarily, or however you say that, involuntarily, we are giving that distraction our strength. We are giving it its strength, but we just don't know, because we had a lapse of mindfulness a little bit, and then we started to think about something. And then while we were thinking about it, we just didn't realize that we were thinking about it. We were thinking about something else than the meditation, and that's completely normal. I mean, we just train our minds to do that all the time. We go after one thing to another, and that's just to be expected. It's totally normal. And as there is that slight lapse of mindfulness, and then we start to really believe that storyline in our mind. And we start to really, identify with that person said this, and I should have said that, and that would have happened, and then I would have done this, and they would have done that. Or maybe it was like, it could have been something wholesome too. It could have been just something very blameless, like think about the beautiful sunrise. I was like, oh yeah, that was so beautiful. And I was like, all these little puffy clouds, and oh yeah, these birds were there, and then that reminds me of our trip in Cairn country, and I don't know what's it called up north. Cairns country. Yeah. Anyway, I was trying to be Australian. I tried to say that I know the geography, but I don't really. And so what happens is that basically we are, just by our involvement with the distraction, we are feeding it. We're feeding it our awareness, and we're basically bringing it to life. That's what happens. But when we recognize that, we release our attention from that distraction. It's not something forceful. It's not something you have to, put a lot of effort in. It's just realizing. And most of the time they happen together. And so it's just only about letting it be there by itself. Just not being involved with the distraction anymore. And now we're kind of going into the rip channel. We're going back into the right direction, paddling back into the right direction. And then the relaxed step is like, I like to compare it as like duck diving. So you have to, sometimes you have still big waves coming, especially when you go at the back. And to pass that a little bit less painfully, I would say, it's better if you can push your board in under the water, and then use it to pull you under the water and really dive under, and use your board as an anchor to pull you under the wave, and so that the wave will break over you and not on you. So the relax step is very important. It's the most important part of our meditation. It is not enough to simply release our attention from the distraction, because most of the time we will still be clinging a little bit to whatever the distraction is. I really like to sidetrack a little bit to Dr. Stephen Porges. I don't know if people know him here, Stephen Porges. And he wrote a book called The Polyvagal Theory. And I found a few of the things that he was saying really really on point with our practice. Like a lot of the things that we store, or either trauma, he calls it adversity history. He says that it's actually encoded in our bodies before we develop language for it. So even before we can verbalize it and put trauma or hurt or a lot of hurtful emotions or experiences that we have, our body has an unconscious kind of mechanism. And a lot of the time we can't actually process trauma through language, because it is felt in our body in it is stored in our body in a much deeper way that we can't actually evaluate with our speaking mind. The Buddha called the vitaka vichara, the kind of like the chatter of the mind, the inner speech of the mind, the thinking and the pondering. He said that this is the activities of the speech, basically, the vachi sankaras. So for the poly nerds here. So basically he's just saying that everything that we're thinking, the thoughts, is also that he calls that speech, even if it doesn't break out into speech yet. He says that it's like the mental speech. And so it's the same thing here. And so in the therapy that he kind of brought together, he says that you don't need to understand and put into words what you're experiencing. You just need to understand the sensations in your body and how to let it go and how to connect with it. So I really liked Nina's questions earlier at the Q&A, because sometimes you might feel things in your body which you feel it's like contracted, but you don't know exactly what it is, and that also can happen. So sometimes you can release things that you don't even know what it came from, what it is, but you're releasing it nonetheless, and that's good. That's the right path. And so it's not to get hung up on, oh, what is it, or am I actually, not to make a big deal out of it, but just to relax. And so obviously in the words of the Buddha, this is found in places like the Anapanasati, the instructions of mindfulness of the breath, for example, where he says to calm the bodily activities, breathing in and breathing out, for example. This is a very classic source of where we find the Buddha explaining this relaxed step. Being aware of your whole body and relaxing all the tension, any tension that could arise in there. And one of the most important understanding in this meditation is that of understanding that every time there is a distraction in the mind, there will be tension in the body also. And so that you can be sure of that. It's not like, oh yeah, sometimes it happens, and like 60% of the time it'll happen. It's actually all the time. But we need to develop that connection. And so more and more, this is also called awareness of the body. More and more we will develop that connection, that sensitivity with our body, and we will really see that every time that the mind is distracted, it's in fact clinging. It's clinging to a story. It's clinging to an event. It's clinging to something, a view that is in the mind. And it's holding. And as soon as this happens, there is tension in the body as well. At the beginning, it might be coarser. It can be felt through anywhere in your body, for sure. But the more the meditation will progress, the more it will mainly be felt in your head, like a light tightness. It won't be anything huge, actually. The more we go, the less the less coarse it will be. So the more subtle it will be, but it will still be there, just ever so slightly. And so my teacher would say, craving manifests as tension and tightness in our bodies. And this is where we actually are empowered to let it go. And then the mental uplift. So the two wings now are going up, uplifting the mind. And so as we release and relax and go into the rip current and duck dive under these waves, and then we make it past the breaking line where the waves break. And that's half of the meditation. So the other half here is about mental uplift and bringing up that joy. So re-smiling. And a lot of people think that this is kind of nonsense. And what does smiling has to do with meditation? And because a lot of the time you're, in Buddhist countries, Dhamma is a very serious thing. So you don't, you're very respectful, and this is serious business. Yet, in the suttas, when you read the Buddha talks about joy and piti and sukha and happiness, pamoja, relief, gladness, all the time. It seems to be very quite different when we read the Buddha himself. I like to see the smiling as like, of course now we're digressing a little bit, but I have to make my story interesting, but it's like you're rising up the nice waves. So usually you have to wait. See, that's the problem. Well, actually, that's one of the things I liked about surfing, was to be out there, and it was very contemplative, in fact, because you have to wait for a long time to get good waves, because they don't always come. You have to wait for the right ones. And a lot of the time spent surfing is actually spent waiting. A lot of people that surf say, well, actually surfing is like 5% about surfing and 50-60% about going past the break, and then another 50 or 40% I have to equal out. For 40% about waiting. It's just about waiting, basically, waiting for the right one to come. But in this meditation, slightly different. You can bring them up, so why wait? And so you can just re-smile. I spent a lot of time studying and translating the suttas, and I found really beautiful things in there. And I like to share it with people so that they know. And one of them is we recite every morning, and we do it for a reason, so that people remember. This natural Samādhi, this natural collectedness of mind, how it comes about. And the Buddha himself says, as a meditation instruction, he says, when the mind becomes distracted, one should apply one's mind to an uplifting object. By doing so, gladness arises. Great. Pamoja. From gladness comes joy. Joyful in mind, one's body is relaxed. And these two we'll see deeper and deeper. They come together. Joy and letting go. They actually help each other out. Relaxed in body, one experiences happiness. And a happy mind becomes collected naturally. And so the more we develop this attitude of uplifting the mind, of not taking the mind so seriously, when the mind is distracted, you'll notice the smile is gone. Because usually when the mind is distracted, the mind is serious. And it's starting to really believe in that story. But as we go along, we'll be speaking more about this. We'll learn to see that as it's not a story, it's just a distraction. It's not this or that, it's just restlessness. It's not this particular story. No, it's just anger, actually. You can just let it go. It's not personal. But I'm not going to go too deep right now. Still have to keep some goodies for later. And one of my favorite part, that's in another teaching, I just love that part. When one practices in that way, just in the way that I said, one's mind becomes clear and bright. Beautiful. And joy wells up from within, and the mind sheds its defilements. I could read you the Pali to really convince you, but this is just the way it is. This is how the Buddha said it happens. And this is the English translation, but that's what he says. And so the reason why we ask people to smile a lot, like all the time, is my teacher was really very amazing about that. He was really adamant about us smiling all the time, walking, standing up, meditating. He didn't have the science background yet at that time, but there's been a lot of really interesting studies that just came out not that long ago. about it, but he just kind of tapped into it, I guess, in his intuition, like he liked to call it. But there was a hypothesis brought forward by Darwin and William James. It's about the facial feedback hypothesis. So they thought, when we're happy and we're smiling because we're happy and we're experiencing that joy, we have all these neurons firing in our brains. And if we were to just activate these muscles mechanically, the same muscles in our face, would it actually trigger the same neural pathways in our brain? And long story short, they had a few researches done, and it does work. So even if you don't believe it, so basically they put a pen in people's mouth. Good. My teaching material. So in one group they had the pen like this. Pouty face. In the other group they had the pen like this. And so it's really smart actually, because I don't think you can get a more mechanical smile than this. Like, it doesn't get more mechanical. I don't think so. And it triggers the zygomatic major and the oscillatory, I can't remember the name. But so both of these muscles are triggered, which are associated with a genuine smile. These two have to be activated for a genuine smile. They call it a Duchenne smile because this crazy French researcher like to put electrodes and run current on people's face and figure out muscle structures, and he found the muscles for a genuine smile, and that's why they call it Duchenne smile, because he just like kind of electrocuted people and like found what a genuine smile was, whatever that is. And so because you know, when you see a smile of contempt, when the eye muscles are not triggered, it's like, yeah, I'm really happy for you. Has that ever happened to you? So that's not a genuine smile. They're not genuinely happy for you. So that's how you can tell their eye muscle is not triggering. Anyhow, so the two groups, they had to evaluate people's motion, and they had to interpret how happy these people looked, basically. And the group that had the pouty face, like this frowning face, had a much more negative perspective on people's gestures and motions. In simple terms, they interpreted life, reality, in a more negative way. And the people who had the fake smile, completely fake smile, they saw reality in a much more positive light. And so that's why we call it the fake it till you make it approach. And you can just bring out your beautiful smile and see what happens. See how long it takes for it to get to you, because it will. Usually, for the people that are really actually genuinely trying, it usually takes 3 to 4 days. And then it becomes, we call it the perma smile. It becomes permanent, and it sticks there in your face. So along with all the associated wholesome states in your mind. So this is why we are so adamant on the smiling. So that was a long story. But I like to put a lot of emphasis on this, because the relaxed step and the smiling are what makes this meditation extremely efficient. And these two ingredients or parts of the recipe are the ones that you really don't want to leave behind. This is what will make this meditation take off. So if you're wondering if you're doing things properly, first, are you smiling? If you're smiling, you're good. Then you can remember also, make sure to practice the relaxed step. Not just keeping it as a mental game of just releasing, but go back to your body. Feel how that feels. And you'll see there's tension. Relax it. And then smile. And don't worry about this tension of the smile. It doesn't count. That's off limits. You don't have to have a joker smile either. Bhante would say a Buddha smile. So a smile of contentment, a smile of peace, a smile of meditation. And so now it's time to catch waves. With this beautiful mind that has, we've relaxed and released the distraction, the body, the mind has become open also. When the body opens up, becomes relaxed, the mind, you will see, becomes open. And you'll feel that relief. You'll bring up another smile, enjoying that relief. And then that's the best moment to come back to Mettā with a beautiful, clear, bright mind that has gotten rid of that agitation, basically. And you're coming back with a purely wholesome mind. And then it's time to catch that wave and to ride it for as long as you can. You can't really force that, you'll notice. Sometimes it just closes and then you have to start again. And then that's when the repeat happens. But you only repeat when the wave closes or, the mind becomes distracted again. So there's no point in catching a wave and just repeating, okay, I'm just going to come out and jump out, and then because I just want to catch another one and repeat the process. No, the wave, riding the wave is the goal. So, so you want to ride the loving kindness. That's the goal. But we only repeat the 6 R's when the mind is distracted, when we fall off the meditation. I like to see the repeat as an aspect of the teaching which we call Vīriya, that is called energy or effort. But I like to translate this as devotion and how devoted we are to this practice, because it's not necessarily about forcing these things, but it's about continual devotion to the practice. No need to beat ourselves up if we fall off the meditation. It's okay. What we need to do is develop the right attitude towards it, the right intention, to smile, to let it go, and enjoy. This is how our meditation practice is like a surf lesson. Please, this is just an analogy. It only goes so far. I was what? Where could this lead? You're surfing into the sunset, in a barrel, and nibbana, that kind of thing. And I was no, this is not going to work. But, yes.
So you got the up and down notion of Vitaka Vichara.
Yes.
And then you reach the land.
Yeah. Yes, great. Yeah, I was actually thinking of plugging in the other shore in there, and you get to the other shore somehow. Yeah. Very good. We're connected. Zen and I connected. Yes, of course. At the beginning, yeah. So I make fun of it. I try to laugh at these things as much as we can, because the beginning few days, this is an experience that a lot of people will have. People will say it's tiresome, the smiling is tiresome, the Mettā is also tiresome. This is the most effortless meditation that I've ever come across. At the beginning it feels a bit harder because we have to get used to the motions, but as you pick it up, you'll see it becomes completely effortless. We are in fact moving away from all mental objects. So the mind will move away and let go of anything that it's holding on to, even meditation objects. And it will become, because of wholesome states, because of their cleansing quality and their bright quality, naturally the mind will start to just stand on its own, effortlessly. But at the beginning, we need to clear it out and clean the slate a little bit. And these coarser experiences will come up. And the smiling muscles do build up. It becomes really, the smile won't be as difficult. It's just like a light smile, and the muscles have kind of gotten used to it. It's like you've done it enough. A lot of my struggles beginning to surf was that also I didn't understand the ocean. So we also need to understand the mind. The thing is that this meditation is so effortless, but we just need to learn the way at first, and that is kind of getting in the way, unfortunately. Because it's that mental activity, you need to learn that new kind of language, that new motion, that movement. But once you'll start to get it down, it's like muscle memory, like kung fu. Then you'll see it's just effortless, be like Bruce Lee. And so then it's all good. It's all about practice. I can't remember his quote. I wish I did, but he's got some good quotes. At the beginning, it's actually good to take more time to see and feel and experience each step. And as you go, you will see it will become more fluent. Bhante said, then you have to learn to roll your R's. So yeah, there's a whole structure to this. So at some point you will, it feels a bit mechanical, like the pen in the mouth kind of thing. But you will learn each of them, and at some point it becomes really fluid. And then you'll really be like, okay, actually, I don't even need to think about this anymore. And that's the time you'll see that's a big change in the meditation.
I was going to ask, is the way always the friend, always the spiritual friend in this meditation?
Yeah, more and more, and especially at the beginning, if you want to just begin with the spiritual friend right now, that's the wave. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that there's no other way, but basically we've noticed that it's just a common experience that everybody relates to very well. And so the spiritual friend it helps us keep everything to one thing, so the mind doesn't get scattered too much. The meditation will change in a few days, but that will be on an individual basis, and we will speak about that on the interviews.
So how are we seeing the spiritual friend? Are we sort of walking with them? Are we talking with them? Are we hugging them? Are we giving them are we doing all sorts of things?
Very good question. Whatever you feel is needed for you to feel that love for them, that loving kindness for them. If for you can just see them and you feel the loving kindness in your heart for them just by seeing them, or just knowing, because when we say that, and a lot of people are not visual, like they can't relate to like seeing the spiritual friend. Just seeing it with your mind's eye, like Bhante would say, it's just like knowing that they're there, seeing them like if they were there. You know that they're there. If that's enough for you to have the loving kindness, great. You don't need to do anything else. The simpler you keep it, the better. Now, if for example, you have a little bit of a down, it doesn't arise as easily just thinking of them, then maybe you want to have a more active recollection. For me, for example, I was picturing my friend doing what he loves, which was surfing, and then I would see him just like so happy, and that would make me happy, and I would feel that love for him. That was more active. But once the feeling is there, then you don't have to be that visual, that active, that anything really. The spiritual friend it's just in the background. If you want to give them a hug, you're more than welcome to. Great. Bhante would say, as long as you're practicing properly using the 6 R's, there's no bad meditation. There's an active meditation, but a good meditation. Because whatever is coming up, it has to come up. This is not a forceful meditation. We're moving away from using force in any way. And so whatever comes up, I will be speaking more about the nature of the mind in the retreat. But it's just the way that the mind has been conditioned. And so when it comes up, if you try to fight it, you're fighting with what is, with the truth. And the only way to calm that down is to apply the 6 R's. And if you just do that, you're on the right path. It doesn't matter how long it lasts with the spiritual friend or the Mettā. It will get longer. Okay, so let's share our merits. And so all together at the end of every discourse, at the end of every day, we will share our merits so that all living beings can benefit from our practice, our cultivation of mind. So here we are. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share these merits that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty powers, share these merits of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.